Sup you beautiful people. Hope you've had a fantastic day. Welcome back to another new episode of What If Naruto Was the Son of Kaguya Otsutsuki. If you guys enjoy this what if, comment down below and let me know. And go ahead and check out other what ifs in the channel after watching this video. Don't forget to subscribe and leave a like, and also share this video with your friends. So now let's start this video. The village that the three hooded travelers found themselves in was a lively one. There were stalls that lined the street that constantly had several customers at any one time. Children were walking along with parents, pointing out to their parents the things they would like from the various stalls that lined the street. All in all, it was quite a surreal experience for all three of the travelers. Would that be how my sons act, had I not taken them away and trained them? It was quite strange how to see the various children that were around and imagine her sons taking their place. She couldn't quite imagine it. The mere thought of calm and patient Hagoromo jumping up and down, pointing at something he wanted seemed so ridiculous. Even Naruto acting like these children seemed far-fetched, because while he was a ball of energy when he was younger, he had never really asked for anything. So the idea of him demanding something like these children, and in some cases, throwing a temper tantrum was laughable at best. Oblivious to their mother's thought, the two men on either side of her, with staves in hand, looked around at the houses, stalls and people. The majority of their thoughts were on how weak all of them looked, having been raised and trained by their mother, who valued and prized strength. It was quite hard to see these people as anything but weak. While Hagoromo tried to look at this from the people perspective, thinking about how they didn't have chakra or how they didn't have someone like his mother to guide them, Naruto had no such qualms. Like Kami, these people are so weak. He mentally raved. I know they don't have chakra, but most of these people look like they've never been in a fight in their life. It's ridiculous. A strong wind from me could blow most of these people over. While Naruto's views on the residents of the village may seem harsh, Naruto had experienced a mental maturing over the 3 or so years, since they had been told of what Hagoromo and himself would have to face in the future. The now 16-year-old had become more serious, only becoming his old self in rare moments to help lower the tension between his mother and brother. The white-haired boy inwardly frowned when he thought over the tension between his mother and brother. Hagoromo's rising determination to help the innocent people of the elemental nations had started to cause a rift between him and his mother, who still maintained the belief that will had to be destroyed for peace. In Naruto's opinion, Hagoromo's belief on how peace should be achieved is idealistic and foolish, bordering on stupid. Though don't get Naruto wrong, he wished that achieving peace would be as easy as Hagoromo says it is, but Naruto knows that won't be the truth. Peace will be achieved through blood and war, by mistakes. That is how Naruto believes that peace will be made, when people realize their own stupidity. Naruto believes that both his brother's and mother's method to peace has the same problem: what happens when they were gone to enforce the peace. When he had asked this question to his mother and brother, both had simply said that they would choose a successor. What successor? Naruto mentally swore. The one that will magically pop out of the ground with the power, wisdom and desire to uphold their own version of peace, with the ability to choose the perfect successor for themselves as well. What happens if they become corrupt? It's impossible. Besides, who has chakra other than the three of yous, unless one of them wants to ask the Shinju for the job? Naruto asked himself sarcastically. Let's go, my sons. His mother's voice snapped him out of his thinking. It is time to go get supplies before we find somewhere to rest for the night. Tomorrow we must be out of the village by mid if we are to reach our destination at our desired time. Once we have bought the food we need, we will seal it in one of Hagoromo's scrolls when we reach a private place. As she finished speaking, she started to walk forward and into the maze of stalls. Both boys made no sound, instead setting off after their mother, wanting to make sure they kept her in their sights. The town was incredibly large, and with no indication of where you were going, it was easy to get lost or lose the people you were traveling with. Naruto realized both of these things as he wandered around a relatively deserted street a couple of hours later. It was obviously one of the darker areas of the town that his mother had warned him about. He could feel the eyes of people in the shadows of alleyways. The gazes that were full of hostile intent that would make a lesser man a nervous wreck, but Naruto was not a lesser man. He had done and seen things that would make the fools in the shadows die of fear. Simply looking at him with the desire to kill him wasn't going to do a thing beyond piss him off. He was so caught up in his thoughts that he almost didn't feel the small hand that tried to sneakily weave itself under his robe from behind and search around for something. Utilizing his reflexes, Naruto spun around and grabbed the hand at the wrist with his free hand, causing the owner of the hand to start trying to yank it away to no avail. Turning to the perpetrator, he was surprised to find it to be a little girl, no older than 7 or 8, wearing what, at one point in time, looked like to be clothes, but no appeared to be rags that hung from her body. She had blonde hair, a surprising color, with violet eyes that looked at him with fear. When the girl realized that she wasn't going to get her hand free, she started to cry. Slowly at first, but eventually the girl started crying like there was no tomorrow, wet track staining her cheeks. She seemed to be mumbling something, but it was impossible to tell underneath all of her crying. Naruto looked around in hope that someone would help him, maybe take the kid off his hands, or even tell him what to do because he sure as hell didn't. It was obvious she was an orphan, the rags were enough to give that away. The question was though, why wasn't she in an orphanage? He knew that there had to be one in the village. Eventually, Naruto decided to try and calm the girl down. Bending down to her level, his hands still around her wrist, he tried to talk to the girl. Hey, it's okay. It's okay. I'm not going to hurt you, alright? He asked in what he hoped was a calming tone. All he was going off was what his mother told him she did when he used to cry as a baby. He didn't know if it would work, but it was all he had at the moment. Thankfully, it appeared to be enough, and the girl finally seemed to stop crying and was starting to hiccup, but the tears still streaked down her face. It was actually saddening to him, he didn't even know why. Maybe it's my brother rubbing off on me with his protect the innocent stuff. Naruto thought idly. Deciding that he wouldn't be able to get this child to stop crying in the middle of the street, he extended his senses out, and found that a dead-end alleyway that wasn't occupied by people he would have to kill. Deciding that it would be better to go down the alley before one of his watchers decided to attack him, Naruto picked the girl up and settled her, so that she was being held in one arm, while the other continued to hold his staff. When Naruto lifted the girl up, she gave a yelp in surprise before freezing up in his arms. He idly wondered why that was before choosing to just ask her why. Walking to the very end of the alley, Naruto sat himself down on his behind, the staff beside him, and the still frozen girl now settled in his lap, and pulled the girl into a hug like he remembered his mother used to. The girl was still frozen at first, but slowly moved her arms around his neck and once again started to cry. Naruto at first thought he'd done something wrong and was going to pull away, until he realized just why this girl was crying. His mother had mentioned that sometimes people will cry for different reasons other than being sad, perhaps this was one of them. Anyway, Naruto continued to hold the poor girl while she cried, until all that came out were hiccups again, before he slowly felt her stop moving. She wasn't dead, Naruto could tell by the rise and fall of her chest, so that only left is sleep. She cried herself to sleep. Naruto thought confused. I didn't know you could do that. Kami, the rest of the world is weird. After thinking about it a bit, Naruto decided to stay where he was, and wait for the blonde girl to wake up. There was no point in searching for his mother and brother as they would find him eventually, and he wasn't going to wake up the girl now. She looked exhausted if the bags under her eyes were any indication, and frankly Naruto couldn't muster up the energy to wake her. It was almost an hour before the girl woke up, as she opened her eyes wearily, and blinked out the blurriness that had invaded her vision. She thought back to the last thing she remembered. I was trying to steal something from some guy in a dress, when he caught me and... The girl's eyes snapped open as she remembered what happened and her body froze. It was then she realized that she had her arms around the stranger's neck and her head on his shoulder. At first she thought he was asleep, but this theory was proved wrong when he spoke to her. Are you awake now, girl? He asked. Are you going to tell me why you wanted to steal from me? The voice held no accusation or anger, only curiosity, though it was not like the girl's mind could tell the difference between them. As she started to tremble, the blonde-haired girl heard the man sigh. Look girl, I'm not going to hurt you, okay? If I wanted to hurt you, I could have done that when you were sleeping. This didn't seem to help the girl as she continued to tremble. Naruto was about to speak again when he heard her mumble something over and over again from his shoulder. I'm sorry. She murmured, the fear obvious in her voice. I'm sorry. I'm sorry. I'm sorry, just don't hurt me. At the end, she tightened her grip around his neck, not enough to hurt the male, but enough to be noticeable. Naruto didn't say anything for a minute, simply thinking over what the girl had said and what he could do. Finally, he just decided to do what his mother did when he was little. The girl flinched at first when she first felt something touch her back, but as she screwed her eyes closed and tensed her body, waiting for the hit, she felt nothing. Slowly relaxing after she didn't feel any pain, she realized that the man was putting his arms around her. It's okay. He whispered in her ear. Don't worry girl, you're safe. I promise. As she finally realized that no strike would come from the person holding her, she began to relax into the embrace. Slowly, however, the man tried to pull himself out of the hug, but the girl had other ideas, clinging to the man like ink to parchment. No? The girl cried internally. Please don't go, please. She didn't want this stranger to go, he was nice. He gave her a hug, he made her feel safe, and she wanted him to stay. The man, as if sensing her pleas, chuckled. Don't worry girl, I'm not going anywhere. I just want to get a look at you, okay? The girl didn't move for a few seconds before very slowly eased herself off him, until she was sitting back on his lap with his arms on her shoulders to reassure her that he wouldn't leave. It was then she realized that she couldn't see his face, as it was underneath the hood. Now, are you going to tell me why you tried to steal from me? He asked with a questioning tone. The girl seemed to squirm under his invisible gaze that she could feel staring her straight in the eye. She then looked down and mumbled something inaudible. What was that? Naruto asked the girl. A little bit loud next time, okay? The girl, still looking down, gave her answer. I was hungry, she said quietly. The words, while louder than before, were still quiet. Naruto internally frowned, being careful to not show it on his face, lest he scared the poor girl. While his mother had told both himself and Hagoromo about how some people couldn't eat because sometimes there wasn't enough food, but there was plenty in this town, he had gotten lost in shops that sold food. How could she be hungry? Are you not being fed enough? He asked. Do people not give you enough food to eat? The answer made Naruto's blood boil and his chakra surge. No one gives me anything. The girl said with her head still down to avoid the man's gaze, not wanting to see the disappointed look that she knew would be on his face. I have to steal stuff to eat. After using several meditation techniques he knew to calm himself down, Naruto knew that if he didn't before he asked another question, the answer would most likely go on a rampage. Why are you on the street? Don't you have an orphanage to go to? Naruto questioned, while praying that the answer was good enough to not warrant him going on a killing spree. Unfortunately, it wasn't. I don't know what an orphanage is, she said trying to sound out the word orphanage. But I lost my Ka-chan and Tu-chan. She continued sniffling at the end. I don't know where they are. Tears were appearing in the corners of her eyes. Naruto, to his credit, didn't show any outward reaction. Internally, however, was a different story. So she isn't an orphan, just lost. He thought. That's a bit better. I thought I might have had to do something drastic. Thankful, his thoughts of violence were halted by a question from the girl. Nan-san, why are you wearing a dress? I thought only girls could wear dresses. After that comment, the girl's 7-year-old mind came to one conclusion. Nan-san, are you really a girl? That question was met by utter silence. A twitch developed above Naruto's eyebrow gave away his annoyance. No, it's not a dress, and I'm not a woman. He managed to get out. Why would she think he's wearing a dress? But I see other women wear stuff like that. She asked with a childlike innocence. Childlike innocence, my ass. Naruto thought. She's asking these questions on purpose, I know it. Naruto inhaled a deep breath of air to calm down before he did something he regretted. Girl, it's not a dress, it's a monk's robe. As he saw the girl open her mouth, most likely to tell him that it was a dress, he quickly asked another question to help divert the girl's attention. What's your name, kid? The little girl smiled at the question, happy that someone seemed to be paying attention to her. My name's Akari. What's yours? She asked curiously. To Naruto's happiness, she seemed to have forgotten he was wearing a dress. Then Kami for children's short attention span. He idly thought. My name's Naruto, nice to meet you, Akari. Naruto smiled, reassuring the violet-eyed child. Giving the child a look over, Naruto noted that she seemed quite thin, more so than a normal child for her age should be. She must be starving, he noted. After pondering what to do for a minute, Naruto decided to take the child to get something to eat for her, as well as for himself. It was definitely past lunch, if the sun's position in the sky was any indication. Smiling to the girl, he was about to ask her what she wanted to eat, when his senses alerted him to the fact that they weren't alone in the alley. Turning his attention to the entrance of the alley, he noted that it was just some of the lowlifes that plagued the area he was in. He was about to give them the opportunity to leave when he felt Akari wrap her arms around his neck and tense. His observations were cut off by the leader of the thugs speaking to him. Alright boy, time to hand over all your money. Do that and we won't hurt you or your little friend, the leader of the thugs said. Judging by the not-so-quiet snickering that was going on behind him, it was obvious that he wasn't going to keep true to his word. Naruto idly noted that he was going to have to knock these people out to avoid any more conflict. While he could kill them and he wouldn't really bat an eye at getting rid of the scum before him, he didn't know about how that would affect the girl that was currently clinging to him like a lifeline, with her head buried in his shoulder. Both Hagoromo and himself had killed before on the trek from the monastery to the town they were currently in. They had been told by their mother why they should kill some people. Even Hagoromo, with his goal to save the world with peace, understood that sometimes people had to be killed to save the peace. He wouldn't go around killing unless there was no choice, but he still understood why he needed to kill. Naruto on the other hand understood that people needed to die in order to make the world a better place. He understood that in order to help the world that you sometimes had to get dirty. While Naruto wouldn't kill anyone that got in his way like his mother most likely would, he wouldn't make killing a last resort either. He would kill when he thought the world could do better without the person in front of him, but wouldn't kill people just because he didn't like them. Unfortunately, the girl he was holding knew nothing about that. She was 7 after all. Reasons for killing someone shouldn't even occur to her, however she most likely knew that killing was wrong, and therefore would most likely assume Naruto was evil, not that he was. Naruto's and Hagoromo's mother, over the course of 3 years, drilled into them just what the rest of the world thought was normal. A person killing several people when it wasn't their job description, especially when they had the power to knock them out, was not normal, and could get Naruto into trouble if anyone caught him. So knocking them out was the best course of action, he decided. First however, he had to get Akari off him so he could move properly. Akari, he whispered in her ear. Don't worry, I won't let them hurt you, I promise. Just let me get up and I'll deal with them. His words seemed to work, and slowly the girl got off him to sit by his side. Naruto then got up while grabbing his staff and slowly walking towards the thugs. "You know," he said, as if nothing was wrong, "I'm going to give all you bastards a concussion." With that he launched himself forward, smashing the leader across the side of his head with the end of his staff. While the lead thug was still falling to the ground, he quickly spun around to the right while twirling his staff. From there it was easy for the bottom of his weapon to impact on the thug's stomach, causing him to double over, only to receive a kick to the face for his troubles, sending him into unconsciousness. By this time, the rest of the thugs had finally gotten their act together and went to charge what they thought would be easy prey because of their numbers. They got a shock, however, when their prey fought back, dropping low and sweeping his staff underneath their legs, causing all of them to topple over like a stack of cards. A single hit to the head while they were on the ground ended the consciousness of 3 thugs, while the remaining 2 of the thugs got back up. This stumped Naruto as he didn't remember giving those 2 concussions yet. The first thug got his leg swept out from under him, and while he was still in the air was smashed in the head, with the top end of Naruto's staff, breaking his nose. The second thug stopped just before Naruto, seeming to be contemplating his chances against a cloaked figure. Unfortunately, he didn't get that chance. An object coming at him caused him to instinctively catch it. It took only a second to recognize the staff that had taken out his friends. Looking up, the last thing he saw was a bare foot flying towards his face before blacking out. He would wake up a day later with a massive headache and a broken nose. Naruto picked up his staff after the thug dropped it, while brushing off some non-existent dirt. Turning towards the girl, he found her with wide eyes and open-mouthed. She was obviously shocked, and if not for the malnutrition and rags that were evident, it might have been comical. "That was so cool," she yelled. "You used a stick." Naruto's sweat dropped when she called his staff a stick. "And you whacked them all on the head, and then they fell down, and it was so cool. Teach me how to do that. Please, please. I promise I'll be good. Please." She begged as she ran up and tugged on his dress. Naruto just chuckled as her hyper-personality. It reminded him of when he was her age. "Sorry, Kari, maybe some other time," he said, ruffling her hair. "In the meantime, let's find your family. Do you know where your 2-chan works?" "No," she replied, before scrunching her nose up. But one time Ka-chan said to 2-chan that she wanted to play with some metal in his metal shop once. Does that help? If Naruto was drinking any water when he heard that, he would have most likely choked in surprise, though thankfully he wasn't. At least if helped though, from what Akari said, then her father was most likely a blacksmith, or at the very least works with metal. "Okay, Kari-chan. I think I know where your 2-chan works," Naruto announced. "Really, you do?" she said excitedly. Was he telling the truth? Would she get to see her parents again? When Naruto nodded, she yelled in happiness before hugging his leg and looking up at him with a smile, until she realized something. "Hey, Naruto-ni-san." Naruto raised an eyebrow, not that she could see it, at the suffix. "Can I see your face? Or are you ugly?" she questioned. Naruto would have face planted if the small girl wasn't holding on to his leg. How could she not know that she was insulting him? There was no way she was doing this by accident. First with his robes and now with his face, was nothing untouchable to this girl. Knowing she would most likely keep questioning why he wouldn't show his face, Naruto brought his hands up to the top of his hood and pulled it back. The face that was revealed would have made many older girls swoon. White hair that was folded into his robe to its length, as well as to not hinder himself while fighting. Pure white eyes that looked incredibly similar to his mother's, except that his mother's had a visible pupil, and his was completely white. Along with that went an angular face, high cheekbones, and what could be a muscular build that was revealed in the neckline and hidden by the robe. Thank Kami for mother's illusions, Naruto thought, thinking about the horns on his head that were hidden behind his mother's abilities, before pulling his hood back up before looking down at the girl. "Happy now?" he asked the child. She smiled up at him, showing off her teeth. "Yes," she said simply. "Good, now let's find your family." And with that Naruto walked completely out of the alley and out onto the open street, before walking back in the direction she originally came, with a 7-year-old girl holding one of his hands and his staff in the other. They had been searching for Akari's father's work for around an hour now, and they had visited 4 of the 7 blacksmiths in the large town. Akari was now tired. Thankfully she had her Ni-san who could pick her up while she slept. Her Ni-san was awesome like that. Naruto was walking towards their next blacksmith, hoping this was the right one, otherwise his mother and brother would properly get angry, and with how his mother hates being around inferior people, she might do something drastic. Walking into the shop with Akari on his hip, head resting on his shoulder, Naruto gently shook her awake, while taking a look at what was in sale. While Naruto had no intention of buying anything besides the fact that he didn't have enough money for any of the things that were on display, doesn't mean that he can't get ideas for other weapons from them. After receiving his staff and katana from his mother, Naruto always felt a bit vulnerable when using both of the gifts in a weapons-only match. Because all it took was one false move to have his weapon removed, and he would find himself defenseless. Naruto had wanted a weapon that wouldn't give him that vulnerability. However, his mother had told him that she had no knowledge of such weapons that wouldn't have that weakness, while his brother said that neither did the archives of the monastery. This didn't mean that he wasn't skilled in using the staff or katana. Naruto was actually really skilled using both weapons when he put the weakness out of his mind. It just left him always feeling vulnerable. The only thing that Kaguya suggested was tying a strong braid of string around his weapon and attaching it to his wrist, but Naruto didn't want some makeshift solution. He wanted a weapon that wouldn't give him such an obvious weakness in a weapons fight. So instead, Naruto thought about designing a new kind of weapon. He had the design of the weapon as well as most of the parts, but he didn't have enough ryo to buy the amount of metal he wanted, and he had no idea where to find some if he wanted to shape it himself. Naruto was cut out of his thoughts by the sound of someone dropping a piece of metal and it hitting the floor. Turning his gaze to the source of the noise, his white eyes came across a middle-aged man with brown hair and violet eyes with bags under them that were white in shock. He was behind the counter where people would bring up what they would buy, wearing a blacksmith's apron over his plain brown tunic. "Akari," he whispered in shock before snapping out of it and practically yelling out his next word. "Akari." The girl in question's head snapped around from looking at the various weapons on display, before turning to a familiar voice. Her eyes came across someone she thought she would never see again. "Tu-chan," she yelled, while wriggling in Naruto's arms in an obvious sign to get down, to which Naruto obliged and placed the girl on the ground, and watched as she ran to the man with open arms and tears in her eyes. The man copied the gesture and picked the girl up and held her close while she started to sniffle. Naruto stayed away and let the father and daughter have their moment. After a minute or two, the man moved Akari to the side so he could see and thank the person who brought his daughter home. Both his wife and himself thought they were never going to see her again. His wife was actually back at their house crying because she thought she would never see her daughter again. "Thank you for bringing Akari back to her family," he said with the beginning of tears in his eyes. "If there is anything you want, please just take it. It is the least both me and my wife can do for bringing our daughter home." He used both of his hands to hold said daughter comfortably. It appeared that she fell asleep, though no one could really blame her. They didn't know when she last had a good night's sleep. "It's okay, Blacksmith-san, you don't have to give me anything," Naruto insisted. He really did. He had to get back to his mother and brother before they skinned him alive for having to wait so long for him. He knew they wouldn't look for him unless it was late, and judging by how the sun was slowly ending its run across the sky, it might be getting late. "No, please, I insist. You must take something, anything, from my shop. You don't even have to use it. It's just to help me feel better that I paid you back for saving my daughter. It can even be just some scrap metal that I have in the back. Please just take something to help me clear my conscience," the father begged, though he missed when Naruto froze for a second when he said scrap metal. Naruto quickly thought for a minute. Well, he did want to give me something, and he would most likely throw away all that metal. The hooded monk thought before addressing the blacksmith holding his daughter. "Exactly how much scrap metal do you have, Blacksmith-san?" Naruto smiled. "Oh yes, today will be a good day indeed." Hagoromo Ōtsutsuki didn't know how his brother managed to push all the right buttons to get on his nerves, but he would like to find out. A lot of the time he seemed to do it on purpose, like when they were little, but lately it seemed he was doing it unintentionally. It didn't matter how he was doing, all that mattered was that his brother was seriously going to get it when he got back for leaving him alone with his mother. Both of them were standing in front of the place they would be staying in for the night. It was just a regular inn that had some spare rooms, nothing too fancy, nothing too cheap. It wasn't that he didn't like her, on the contrary, Hagoromo loved his mother just like he used to when he was a boy. But lately there has been a lot of tension lately about how peace should be achieved. It was something that shouldn't be a problem, but it was. Hagoromo's constant belief that love was the answer seemed to, not anger, but annoy his mother. He felt that his mother was trying to show him some hole in his belief that he was not seeing, while he was also trying to do to her, but he just wasn't seeing it. Peace had turned into a constant argument in their family, and it seemed that his brother was caught in the crossfire with both his mother and himself, trying to convert him to their belief. Speaking of his brother, he had showed that despite not having Rinnegan and his supposed godlike power, that he was still a force to be reckoned with. Just before they were leaving to find a larger area for training, Naruto told both his mother and himself of his ability to combine the elements to create what he calls sub-elements or second-tier elements. At first both himself and his mother thought it was a joke, and that he had just used water and lowered its temperature, freezing it to create ice or something similar. They were shut up though when Naruto opened his mouth to spew out lava that crashed into the floor with a hiss. He then proceeded to wave his arm, and the lava seemed to collect itself into a sphere, before Naruto flung it out of the monastery. After both Hagoromo and Kaguya got their jaws to the ground, they asked what else Naruto could do, and Naruto replied that he had mastered 4 of the sub-elements in 3 years, and was currently working on another, but didn't go into what elements exactly were. When asked how he did it, Naruto told them that he believed that it was the result of infusing spiritual and physical energy into separate elements, and that thanks to his instincts that he gained, he could separate chakra into his 2 energies instantly. Naruto also expressed a word of warning that neither of them should try it. When both of them asked why that was, Naruto told them that when he creates a sub-element manually as he called, which involved getting the separate elements to slowly move together. He noticed that when he split chakra into physical and spiritual energy, he noticed that there was an equal amount of both energies. When Naruto decided to see what would happen with unequal energies, the result wasn't pretty. The overpowered energy suffocated the underpowered one, and the result was both elements exploding violently. Naruto admitted that if his chakra couldn't unconsciously heal him that he would have died. His mother then proceeded to drag him into the dirt area in the garden, and then beat him up for a couple of hours, as punishment for being a kami-forsaken idiot. Thoughts of his brother's improvement also made him remember his own. Hagoromo had proved that he was quite skilled using his shakujo and katana, more so than his brother, which was a surprise for him, since his brother usually excelled in the physical areas of combat. Though after his brother had told him about how vulnerable he felt with the weapons, he understood why. It would be like learning how to write with his opposite hand, not impossible, just uncomfortable, and would take a while to get used to. Though when his brother told him about a weapon he was going to design that would suit him, Hagoromo expressed his doubts. After all, while Naruto was competent in his plans, they usually ended with some sort of explosion. Hagoromo actually commented that he thought he might have been using the explosions like an element. Hagoromo didn't like the glint that appeared in his brother's eye when he said that. Thinking about explosions then made Hagoromo think about the, not really a new ability he uncovered, but more like a new application for chakra, like when Naruto made his chakra heal himself. During his early teen years, Hagoromo had been searching in the archives of the monastery when he uncovered a book talked about symbols that did things when applied in the right ways. Obviously when Hagoromo drew a symbol on some spare paper nothing happened, but that got him thinking, what if he could use them with chakra? Obviously just ink wouldn't work, but what if he could use chakra somehow to power the symbols, much like his chakra powered his techniques from his Rinnegan. That was when Hagoromo discovered that if he channeled chakra onto the ink, that symbol came alive and did what the book said it was meant to. Unfortunately, the symbol had been one for fire, and it was only thanks to him coating his hands in chakra that he escaped with it. From then until they had to leave the monastery, Hagoromo had practiced what he called Fuinjutsu, while recording all he did as well as writing out ideas for new seals that he wanted to try out in a book he now carried on himself. It was thanks to his Fuinjutsu that the group could carry all they wanted without bags, using what he called storage seals that he placed on scrolls. He then therefore called the product of the two storage scrolls. Though he got quite angry when Naruto just casually tossed the scroll up in the air when he first got it. Didn't he know all the blood, sweat and tears, not to mention the explosions that occurred when he developed the scrolls. Hagoromo was also trying to work out a solution to defeat the Shinju using Fuinjutsu. Both he and Naruto know that defeating the tree god in a drawn-out fight is nearly impossible. The beast is a god for a reason, or at least part god according to their mother. Not that it makes much of a difference in the end. He had decided that sealing the beast in something would be the best option. The only question now was what to seal it in. That was the question that he was pondering. Maybe Naruto would have some ideas. The white-haired 16-year-old could be quite smart when he was serious when he wanted to. Hagoromo was drawn out of his thoughts by an approaching chakra source that dwarfed his own. That was another thing. Over the years, Naruto's chakra system had grown to an enormous size. So much so that it was almost 2.5 times the size of Hagoromo's own, and almost double the size of his mother's. And that was without adding the fact that Naruto's chakra was also denser than normal, although that was really just based to the three people. Naruto chakra however was still smaller than the Shinju's own chakra, though from what Naruto could sense of the beast's growing chakra, after his mother told both Hagoromo and Naruto how to sense it, he had around a third of part god's chakra. Though it was still gaining more at a faster pace than Naruto could, though that was to be expected, the Shinju was at least part god. Turning towards where he felt his brother's chakra coming from, Hagoromo used his eyes to spot him. However, as soon as he did lay eyes on him, he was instantly wary. Naruto was smiling, and while he couldn't see the rest of his face due to the hood, the smile was all he really needed to know something was wrong. It wasn't the happy, joyful, excited sort of smile. It was the I'm involved in something dangerous smile that was only on display when something pointy or explosive was involved. Observing as his brother, Hagoromo noted that there was nothing abnormal and slightly relaxed. Perhaps he was wrong. False alarm. Hagoromo idly noted that his mother had also sensed his brother's approach, and was also wary of the smile that he had on. Like mother like son, I guess. Hagoromo thought offhandedly. When his brother finally reached them he noted that he still hadn't lost the smile. What's with the smile, Naruto? Hagoromo asked as soon as Naruto was close enough, accusation in his voice. Why Hagoromo, what in Kami's name made you think that I am smiling for any reason other than Naruto's happy voice trailed off after he noticed that both his mother and brother had their arms crossed. He could feel their stares. Naruto pouted. Oh, fine. He said with the pout almost visible in his voice. I'll show you when we enter our room. It took barely 5 minutes before Naruto was sitting on a futon in a room of the inn they were just outside 5 minutes before. Now with their cloaks off Naruto could see his brother's and mother's face. Both of them hadn't changed much in 3 years, just like himself. The only really noticeable thing was that Hagoromo had kept his hair short, and his horns had grown longer, much like Naruto's own. "Okay Naruto, what's with the grin?" Kaguya questioned with a raised eyebrow. Naruto just smiled at his mother before he pushed his hands into his robe and removed about 30 or so metal balls. There was nothing really noticeable about them other than all of them were perfectly smooth and round, no imperfections on any of them. "They're metal balls Naruto," Hagoromo said, raising an eyebrow. Naruto inwardly smirked. Both Hagoromo and his mother were more similar than they let on. "What's so special about them?" Naruto simply smiled. Both Kaguya and Hagoromo were wondering if the other member of their family finally lost it. The four said family members' eyes started to glow a dark gray, and all of the metal balls rose up from Naruto's palms and started to circle around Naruto. Both Kaguya and Hagoromo were wide-eyed at the display. Moving metal was something beyond even the Rinnegan, so to see it being manipulated so easily was a shock. Both of them were jarred from their staring by Naruto's voice. "Remember when I said I would make a weapon that doesn't need to be held?" Naruto asked them. His family members nodded, still looking at the balls that had now stopped rotating and were hovering above Naruto's head. "I now have all the pieces I need to make it," he said. Son and mother were about to question what blade he was talking about when the metal balls that were hovering around started to come together until 4 groups were formed. 2 of the 4 groups possessed the same amount of balls, while the other 2 groups also had the same amount of metal balls, though they had a significantly less amount than the first 2 groups. What happened next surprised the eldest members of the Ōtsutsuki family. The metal came together and melded, the metal balls of each group seeming to meld together, forming a metal ball that was the size of all the metal balls of that group combined. Once each of the groups had all their metal balls absorbed into one, they then started to elongate, becoming sharp and pointed much like a knife. When all of the groups stopped morphing, both Kaguya and Hagoromo were left looking at 4 blades of metal. 2 of them were large, with the length and width of Naruto's forearm, with a slit down the middle of the metal. The smaller pair of blades were much thinner and more streamlined than the larger blades. "This is what I'm going to make," Naruto said, breaking Hagoromo and Kaguya out of their observations of his blades. Both pairs of blades moved down until one of each was set around Naruto's wrist. The larger ones were above his wrist, resting on his forearms, while the smaller, slimmer pair rested underneath his wrists. "I'm going to make dual wrist-mounted blades." Here he moved the larger 2 blades forward, until both of the blades stuck out while still being attached to his forearms. The larger 2 blades are made for front-on sword battles. They're light enough and thin enough to keep up with Tanto, but strong enough to hold up against something like a katana. I can also use them to block surprise attacks with my forearm when both blades are retracted, Naruto explained. He then moved the large blades back and had the smaller pair move forward. The glint of light that the metal gave off, as well as how small it was, gave off an unassuming appearance. But both Kaguya and Hagoromo knew from experience that Naruto would never keep something that didn't help him in some way. The smaller blades are for surprise attacks that enemies won't expect, as well as deflecting attacks and killing silently. Naruto then retracted that pair of blades as well, before looking up at his brother's and mother's face, paying no attention to the surprised looks on their faces before he continued with his explanation. "All I need know is a way to extend both blades that doesn't involve me getting stabbed. What I've got so far is Hagoromo doing something with Fuinjutsu that will allow me to use chakra to extend and retract both pairs of blades." When he finally finished speaking, he observed his family's faces, wanting to see how they felt about it. Kaguya seemed shocked and proud of him, shocked at the kind of weapon he made, and proud that he could make something at that level. Hagoromo on the other hand seemed shocked and curious, shocked because of the weapon, but why would he be curious? Because of the kind of weapon it was, because of metal manipulation he showed, or was it because he asked to help use his Fuinjutsu to help create a weapon? "It is an interesting weapon you have thought up, Naruto," Kaguya told Naruto after several seconds. "It has the potential to be amazing." "Yes, brother," Hagoromo agreed. "Your design is incredible. I will try to design a sealing array that will allow you to do as said, but it will definitely take time to create." Here Hagoromo got a slight smirk. "Unless you want to learn Fuinjutsu and help me with creating the array." "How long will it take you?" Naruto asked. He didn't want to have to wait long for his dual blades to be completed. "A year, maybe more," Hagoromo replied, and waited for the inevitable outburst. "What?" Naruto exclaimed. "A year? Why would it take you so long?" he whined. Hagoromo's rippled eyes immediately hardened. "Have you forgotten just what we will be fighting in the future, brother? I am devoting much of my spare time to finding a way to get rid of the beast using Fuinjutsu," Hagoromo replied in an icy tone. Naruto quickly stiffened and sat up straighter. "In that case I will also learn Fuinjutsu," he replied, his voice becoming serious and his eyes narrowing. "Not just for my own array, but to also help you, Hagoromo, find a way to get rid of the Shinju." Hagoromo smiled. It was times like this when he was glad his brother could be serious. "Thank you, Naruto, I will be glad to accept your assistance." The eldest Ōtsutsuki male then became serious again. However, now that we are here, I believe that we should discuss ways to deal with our foe. I agree, Nison, said Naruto. If we are to defeat the Shinju, we must start planning immediately. Here Naruto took a deep breath. While I most likely will not be able to overpower the beast, even combined, we will not have enough chakra. Therefore our only option is to trap it somewhere it can't escape. Hagoromo expressed his own thoughts. Correct, Naruto, our best option would be to trap it and hold it somewhere. I have also believed this to be our only option for a while now. As I said before, I have been looking to Fuinjutsu for the answer to our problems. So far the only answer that I have come up with is to seal the beast inside something to keep it contained. Here though Hagoromo's expression turned grim. Unfortunately for us, I have no idea about anything that can contain a being of such power. An animal is a possibility, but then so is the possibility that the Shinju's conscious will override the animal's mind and take control. An inanimate object is defiantly a no. While inanimate objects do have the ability to contain chakra, the Shinju simply has too much chakra to be contained in an inanimate object. Hagoromo took a deep breath before continuing. The only object I could come up with would be either you or myself, Naruto. There was silence in the room after Hagoromo's confession of their options with Fuinjutsu. Kaguya, who had been standing silently while her two sons had their conversation, could do nothing but watch the grim looks on their faces. She knew she would be no help in this kind of conversation. Any idea she had wouldn't work, as they said already they couldn't overpower the creature, and they were already talking about trapping it using Fuinjutsu. What could she contribute to a discussion about a subject she had no clue over? While Hagoromo watched his brother's face, Naruto's brain was currently running over all their options in his head, trying to find anything they had missed or overlooked in their discussions. Could we destroy it using Fuinjutsu? Naruto asked suddenly, looking at Hagoromo. What? He said, startled by his brother's words. Destroy it with Fuinjutsu. Can we do it? He repeated, looking at his brother. You once said that the limit with Fuinjutsu was one's imagination. Would it be possible to absorb all its chakra using Fuinjutsu? Hagoromo said nothing for several minutes, thinking over his brother's proposal. Hagoromo then shook his head and sighed. It is possible, Naruto, but there are several problems with that. 1. We would have to keep the Shinju in a certain area while the seal takes effect. The seal would have to be on the ground, as it would be impossible to grab onto the beast and carve the seal onto the skin. Then we don't know how long it would take or even if we could keep it there. Remember, we have no idea of any of its abilities. For all we know it could fly just like you, Naruto. 2. Where would all of its chakra go, because it would have to go somewhere. There are just far too many high-level risks involved in trying to absorb its chakra. Couldn't you seal it into someone else? Both brothers turned to their mother, who, for the first time since they started the conversation, was speaking. Why can't you just seal the beast into a random person if you can seal it into yourself? Because where would the chakra go? Since only Naruto and myself have the chakra pathways that can support the Shinju's chakra. If we did seal it into a normal citizen, there is no telling what the Shinju's chakra would do to the host body. Hagoromo paused again before adding to his words. There is also the fact that anything bigger could have disastrous consequences. It's bad enough that we're trying to seal away a possible primordial entity, but anything that destroys it could do serious damage to our world. There's an obvious reason that it is here, on this plane, otherwise it would have left long ago. It may hold the world together. That revelation was disturbing to say the least. The possibility that anything they did would end up with both Ōtsutsuki males dead was depressing. It was like either way they ended up dead. However, both boys would try go with the possibility of death rather than certain death. It was then that Kaguya decided to put an end to the depressing aura that had enveloped the room. Hagoromo, Naruto, go to bed both of you. Kaguya commanded to her children, though both of them knew it was actually her nice way of speaking to them. As they got older, both of them realized that their mother was starting to become harder on them. She still cared about the two of them obviously, otherwise she would have left the two to their demise. Naruto theorized that the reason she was becoming harder on them was because they weren't cute anymore. He was promptly slapped up the back of his head for his comment by Hagoromo. Both boys nodded at their mother, with Hagoromo and Kaguya then left for their own rooms while closing the door. Naruto's eyes stopped their glowing as he then changed out of his robes into some loose pants from a storage scroll, before sealing up the clothes he had worn during the day, and placing it next to his bed. Naruto then laid down on the futon while hiding his newly made metal blades underneath his pillow, just in case. As he stared at the ceiling, Naruto pondered what was to come. What would happen after both he and his brother defeated the Shinju, if that happened? Would people cast them out as freaks, worship them as gods, or try to manipulate them for their own ends? Naruto truly didn't know what would happen. How would he achieve peace? Both Hagoromo and his mother had their own methods to peace, but Naruto still didn't know how he was going to accomplish his dream. Though Naruto did know that there was going to be a lot of training in the future, whether to help take down the Shinju or even just to discover his own capabilities, Naruto would definitely be training in the future. His ability to combine elements was just too good to leave alone. There were just so many combinations, possibilities. It made Naruto's head spin thinking about all the possibilities that he hadn't uncovered yet. Wood, sand, explosion, darkness, light, crystals, maybe even non-physical elements like sound. And those were just off the top of his head. As Naruto thought about all that he would do in the future, he felt his eyelids become heavy, finding it hard to stay awake. Deciding to get some rest, he succumbed to his body's desire to sleep, closing his eyes and entering into a peaceful slumber. It would be several years before any of the Ōtsutsuki family would feel the stirring of the Shinju, though the constantly building chakra would give them enough motivation and incentive to train as much as they could. Hagoromo working on his Fuinjutsu, Rinnegan techniques and preparing the seal for the Shinju, while Naruto would work on combing and creating new elements, as well as his chakra constructs ability, feeling that it would be those two abilities he would need the most in his battle with the Shinju. The open spaces that were available to Hagoromo and Naruto greatly increased the power that they could put behind their attacks, helping them master devastating techniques, in Hagoromo's case, and creating large-scale attacks, in Naruto's case. They would feel the awakening of the beast. The completely overwhelming chakra would spread over the earth like a plague would be hard to ignore. Even the normal citizens of the elemental nations would feel it to an extent. They would feel constantly uneasy, like there was a spider on their neck that they couldn't remove. Surprisingly, the chakra of the beast wasn't filled with malice or pure evil, but neutral, neither good nor bad. Part of the family was actually grateful that the beast had finally come. The tension that was constantly building was almost unbearable. All three members found it hard to sleep with the atmosphere that was taking hold. Naruto actually thought that the Shinju would destroy his family without even doing anything. The increased tension from the looming threat of the Shinju and combined with their different views on achieving peace, was putting a strain on the relationship of Hagoromo and Kaguya. What would usually be just staring contests and heated conversations, had evolved into shouting matches that could only be resolved when Naruto physically got in between them. Fortunately and unfortunately, it wouldn't be the Shinju that destroyed the family, but the decisions that were made after it. It would be those decisions that would destroy the family, and shape the elemental nations for years to come. As the battle approached, both brothers readied themselves, knowing that the beast would come for them as the only other chakra around besides its own. Both knew that the battle would be one of epic proportions. The amount of chakra and destruction that would be flung around would be, most likely, the largest amount ever at one time. This also affected where they would have their final battle. Hagoromo and Naruto knew that no civilians could get in the way. So they went to a place where there were no people, to the southeast of Fire Country. While there had been expeditions to the lower east of the Land of Fire, there were no sentient inhabitants. A quick flyover by Naruto proved this. The large circular land would be perfect for the confrontation with the Shinju, uninhabited, isolated and spacious. When they felt the Shinju's awakening, both brothers quickly sighed goodbye to their, packing what they would need for the upcoming fight, and set off for their preset battleground. As both, now, men traveled to their destinations, uncertain of the outcome, both knew one thing. It would be a battle for the ages. Thanks for listening. I do hope you enjoyed. If you want the next part of this video, like, subscribe and comment down below, and turn on the bell notification. And also check out other videos that I have created and enjoy. See you in the next video. Peace.